Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me for another edition of Tales from a Very Minor Celebrity. Sorry I wasn't here last week. I took a short holiday, went to North Devon and South Devon, saw the parents, saw my brother, saw one of my cousins, had a really nice week away. So hence there was no Tales from a Very Minor Celebrity last week, but I'm back with a cracking episode this week. You'll be hearing again from one of the many musical stars that I've interviewed over the years. Today, Alan Price, the original keyboardist with The Animals, House of the Rising Sun, etc. Really great group. And as the iconic Australian soap Neighbours ends today after 37 years on UK screens but transmitted all over the world, you'll hear an interview I did with one of the show's longest serving actors, Tom Oliver, who played Lou Carpenter in over 2,000 episodes. But first, Alan Price, who, as I mentioned, was the original keyboardist with The Animals before he left in 1965 to form his own band, the Alan Price Set. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. How many of my musical guests have been in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? He was inducted in 1994 as a member of The Animals, having played on such iconic songs as House of the Rising Sun, We've Got to Get Out of This Place, Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood, etc. He's also known for his solo work. His best known songs include Jarrow's song, The House That Jack Built, Simon Smith and His Amazing Dancing Bear, and so on. We chatted in around 2000, I think it was, in an extended interview because he was such an interesting bloke to talk to. And he began by talking about how and when he first took up the instrument that would shape his life.
I had an illness of yellow jaundice. It was quite serious, and I was off school for a year, and I was very critical at one stage, and they moved me down to the front room where they normally move people when they're going to die. Oh. And in the same room was a piano. And my mother was a cleaner at the local school, and when I went in when she was cleaning, the piano tuner came up, and he opened up the piano, and he found money inside. So when I went back to my granny's, I opened up the piano, and there was an old threepenny bit in there and an old sixpence. And I thought, there's money in this piano business. So I taught myself to play.
And did it come to you quite easily?
Well, I learned to play by ear, and there was always music around the house. My father was a singer, and his two brothers used to do a three-part harmony. My brother used to play the trumpet, and he was also a choir master at the local Baptist church. And my grandmother ran an over-60s club, and they used to do Edwardian songs and rehearse in the front room. Wow. So there was always music around.
And did you ever perform with your parents?
No. But I had to play. You had to do your party piece. My grandmother was a matriarchal figure. So on Saturday nights, this is pre-television era, everyone had to go to my grandma's, and everybody had to perform and either recite a piece of poetry or sing a song or do something.
So you grew up quite early on performing in front of people?
Yes, I hated every minute of it. I used to get really self-conscious.
Wow.
And my grandmother knocked it out of me, really.
I was going to say, has it stayed with you? Do you still get nervous on stage?
Well, I think everybody gets nervous, really. I mean, every performance is new by virtue of the different people, different hall, different place.
Yeah.
And it's just it also leads to natural adrenaline because it's quite an artificial thing to get on stage. So if you're a bit nervous, it gets you up there. It's gladiatorial in that sense.
Yeah. Can I take you back to your days with The Animals? Do you look back on those days with affection?
Well, yes, they're part of it's my past, it's part of my history. I do indeed. And the Animals were a very good band, and we were part of a great experiment. It was a bit like wartime, you know. We went over to America, and we conquered, which is a very difficult thing to do.
Absolutely.
I mean, when we were successful in America, we had over 50% of the American market, which was a real achievement for any industry at all.
But you left the band. Am I right in saying you actually were planning to leave the band, at its height?
I just hated the flying entirely. And to plug up the courage, I used to have to buy a bottle of vodka and drink that before I got on the plane.
Gee.
And if you do 70 cities in 70 days, you're not in a very fit state after that. And I was actually ruining my health.
Yeah.
And I felt it wasn't worth the candle, really. And so I decided in the end I had to go back and regroup, and I went back to Newcastle and took about 6 months off before I started the Alan Price Set.
So if you didn't have this fear of flying, do you think you would have stayed with them longer?
I think, yes, I think we would have seen it off. I mean, there's a natural progression. You know, it happens in all groups. They can't stay together forever. In fact, most groups only stay together for the length of a contract with a record company, really, because that's what you're in business to do. It's the same as all shops. It's very few chain shops keep going for a long time, like Marks and Spencer. You know, most corner shops open and close all the time, or change hands.
Did you enjoy, I know you had this fear of flying, but did you enjoy your success in America?
It was strange to play in front of 20,000, 50,000, 14,000 people, because really the audience were the event and you weren't.
Yeah.
You were just providing the background music to it. And they never really looked on you as human beings. I remember being attacked by fans. And I remember they tore the bass player's hair out, they ripped the suits, and they'd run out. They'd bought all the jelly babies up for the Beatles, and they'd thrown them. So we got acid sweets in the end. And if you've been hit by an acid sweet from the balcony, it can really hurt. And I remember the drummer, Johnny Steele, got one right in the forehead and actually fell off the top of a stage about 12 foot high. So it was quite, and we were mobbed quite a few times, and it was quite a frightening experience. We were in a car that got crushed in San Francisco by all the people coming out and jumping on the roof. And so it had its moments.
Did you ever get that reaction over here?
Not really. I can remember after 5 hits, we were playing in Tottenham Court Road at a pub called the Manor House, and the girls down the front were just pulling the singer's leg, Eric Burdon, and saying, "Can you do a Beatles song?" Treated as stars in Britain, because as you know, it's a nation of Philistines, really, and they know that everybody's in it just to make a few bob, so they don't treat you like that with the same sort of contempt that they treat footballers, I think.
You mentioned Eric Burdon. What was your relationship like with him?
He was a chap who had a record collection. He lived in Newcastle, and he lived next door to a merchant seaman. And the guy used to go. This is long before the record shops used to stock blues records. And you could. This guy would bring them back from his travels from Canada and from America. So Eric was the fount of all wisdom when it came to that, and he had a great influence on the kind of piano styles that I had, because he used to copy a singer called Joe Turner, and I was his sort of amanuensis, like Pete Johnson used to play boogie piano. So I learned to play like that. So he had a great influence, and he's a marvelous singer. So we had a very good relationship, actually, musically. And in a sense, it was a group that was fated to break up, because all we were the best players in the Newcastle area who got together, and we had entirely different social lives and different ideas, different politics, different backgrounds, different families. And it only hung together as long as the music was satisfying. And after about a couple of years, we'd exhausted all the stuff that we'd learned, because the producer was very lucky that he had a ready-made band, and because we'd been rehearsing and playing together for 8 years. As soon as that ran out and we weren't writing our own material, I think that the group was fated to just fade away.
Yeah. Were you mates?
I think that it's a bit rather like, again, if you're in the army, you've got to muck in together, and you have to get on with the guys in the barracks, because you got to keep the place clean, and it worked, and but we were never what you might call deep soulmates. None of us were.
After the Animals, your career really went up and up, didn't it?
Well, it's totally by accident. I determined that I had to sort of prove my worth. As if I was going to be a band leader, I had to have hit singles. And so I went about it in a determined way and followed my own nose. And Did I Put a Spell on You, and Simon Smith, and Don't Stop the Carnival, High Lily, High Low. And by chance I was approached by Lindsay Anderson, the filmmaker, and he got me to write some film music. And then I had an idea of doing a musical, and I saw Andy Capp in a newspaper in Los Angeles, so I decided to do that as a musical. So it's really, a lot of it has been by chance, not by design, because I haven't had a manager since 1965.
Wow. Do it yourself if you can, that's what I say. Why pay 10%?
Well, I don't think it was that so much, is that I've always wanted to, I know that I'm a sort of delicate flower, and I don't take kindly to being ordered about. and I very much me own, a bit of an outsider. So if I've only got myself to please, then there's very little friction. And I found out that being signed to major corporations and record companies and agents and managers and merchant bankers we're all in the end owned by corporations, and if you can avoid that as much as you can, I think you become a bit of a free man. It doesn't always do you some good. It's nice to have the security around you, like I did when I was a civil servant and used to be a taxman. But it's best to look after yourself.
Let's bring you right up to date. Your latest album is called Based on a True Story. Why is it called that?
I think it's basically because, it is what it is. It's not necessarily my true story, but it's about the friends and the people that have been around my life and the things that they've gone through. And I had a bit of a reassessment. I had a heart condition of a kind that had to be corrected with steel tubes put into the arteries, and that makes you consider your life a bit. And I thought, I haven't been writing lately. I better leave a bit of a legacy for me, my youngest daughter, Amy. She's 10 years old. So I thought I'd put down a few pearls of wisdom, and it's a kind of a thing that she can look back upon, and she'll know it was a difficult time in my life, and it's a good album for that reason.
It is a very good album. I have listened to it. It's very laid back, very very sort of relaxing album.
Ruminative.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, well, I put a lot of thought into it, and I also was in contact with other people at the time who were going through life changes, and their life was really changing. We'd had long discussions, and we were talking about the books that they'd bought and the advice that'd been given by doctors and what have you. And I thought that would be an interesting subject to really devote yourself to, because if there's people that you care about and they've gone through a bad time, I think it's good that you can take some of the advice when you've seen them come out the other end and put it down on record.
Are you an extravagant man? You've obviously got a bob or two. Do you like to spend it?
Very rarely. I mean, when I go on stage, I've been wearing the same trousers that I got free in an advert I did for Colour Gas in 1990. So they've lasted about 12 years, and I'm very much a creature of habit. And it's only I only buy things if I'm given them or somebody goes out and buys them. I have got no fashion sense whatsoever. My only extravagance is golf clubs. And the last set I bought, I got off the professional at my club second hand for £200. So that's not really spending a lot of money. And I buy my cars second and third hand. So no, it's not that I'm mean.
No.
I did all of that in the early days.
Yeah.
And I found out that material possessions, apart from getting a home and what have you, are very transient. And you get very little pleasure and out of material stuff. For women, I think it's good therapy, retail therapy, but I don't get a great deal of pleasure out of it. And I was brought up from a very poor background. And we lost my dad very early on, and I used to have to wear hand-me-downs and what have you. So I'm used to making and mending.
All right, mate. Well, listen, it's been a delight talking to you. The album is brilliant. As I said, I have listened to it, based on a true story. And I'm delighted to say you're going to be in the county at the Mercury Theatre in Colchester on 2nd of November.
Yes. I always feel very guilty when I was there. I went on a golf trip about a few years ago, and my car battery ran down, and I didn't make it back to Colchester Mercury Theatre, and there was a full house there. And so I always feel a bit nervous when I'm doing that gig. But they're very nice people, so tell them I'm looking forward to it.
Well, they'll be listening to this, and they've got it from the horse's mouth. Alan Price, thank you very much.
It's been my pleasure.
Alan Price. The original lineup of the Animals was Alan Price, Eric Burden, Chaz Chandler, Hilton Valentine and John Steele. They reunited for a one-off benefit concert in Newcastle in 1968, and they later launched brief comebacks in 1975 and 1983. Now Neighbours, it's coming to an end today after 37 years on air in the UK, and it's the end of an era for soap fans the world over. The Ramsay Street-based show has seen its fair share of drama, deaths, wedding births, murders and the rest. But the biggest drama of all was in March 2022 when show bosses announced that it was coming to an end. Tom Oliver is the British-born Australian actor who started his career in theatre in his native country before emigrating to Australia. He's been a staple of the small screen since the early 1960s, but is best known for his TV soap opera roles, most notably, of course, Lou Carpenter, a role he played for over 25 years, and he appeared in over 2,300 episodes, where he is best known for his constant sparring with Harold Bishop. We spoke just after he'd come to the UK to attend the British Television Awards back in 2004, which was notable for a streaker who stormed the stage whilst Ozzy and Sharon Osbourne were presenting a prize. An excited Sharon Osbourne started shouting, "I want that Willie! Bring me back that Willie man," as the streaker was whisked off by security guards.
Did you see the streaker? Because I missed him.
Yeah, I wasn't sure whether he was for real. No, hang on, I'll rephrase that.
Yeah.
Whether it was part of an act or what. Because they seemed to bundle him out of the door very easily, if you know what I mean.
I see.
But I, at the time, I thought it was part of the show.
No, I don't think it was. Sharon Osbourne was very impressed.
Yes, I noticed that, yes.
Were you disappointed you didn't win?
No, not really disappointed. No, it's up against some wonderful competition there. And I just thought I like that gut feeling that it's gone to a home show, as it were. But I don't mind because, you see, I've got a daughter that lives in Essex.
Oh, really?
And 2 beautiful grandchildren, yes.
So how did your family end up in Essex then?
It's a long story. We don't have time at the moment. But
right.
Michelle, my daughter lives up there, my lovely grandkids, Harriet and Georgia. And, they just choose to live in Essex, I guess.
Yeah, well, why not?
Yes.
Why not? Now, we must talk to you about Neighbours. You've been in it a few years now.
I will have completed 13 years at Christmas, yes,
Gee
all in one
whiz.
stretch.
You must enjoy it.
I do. It is truly a pleasure to get up and go to work every morning. And I'm one of those people, the earlier the better. I love that time of day. But they're a great bunch of kids, not just in the cast, but the crew as well. And I call them kids because I'm the oldest one in the company.
But I think it's good to have people that we've grown up with, and it's great to see new people coming in and out. But I think you need a basis there of characters that we know and love.
Yes, because people go on about the demographics being very young, but I find in the past when I've come over to do pantomime that I get stopped more by grannies in the street, shall we say, than the young people. That audience is certainly there. And I think that's a major part of the success of Neighbours.
Yeah.
That is such a wide demographic. Yeah.
Now, your character, forgive me, because I'm working, I don't get to see Neighbours as much as I'd like to, but you're in prison at the moment, aren't you?
Yeah, I think I'm actually on day release at the moment.
You're on day
release. I was
release.
allowed out last night to go to the Albert Hall. But, yes, I was talking to a journalist earlier today, and he mentioned about how much of am I anything like Lou? I said, well, no, Lou's more like me, because when you're doing episodic television like this, you cannot but help, because of the time factor, put part of your own character into a character. And mischievous and honesty was the questions used. Mischievous, I can't even say it, can I? Being mischief and being honest. That's better. And that was Lou's downfall as far as going to prison was concerned, because he was honest. He actually turned himself in to confess his rort with the horse with Rocco, and so that Toadfish could be saved.
Yes. The future for you, are you going to be in Neighbours for the foreseeable future? I know you can't give away plot lines and things like that.
Well,
but...
yeah, I signed a new contract in July.
Oh, really?
For a year, with a year's option on their side, which is the usual procedure. And we shall see around next June if they wish to pick up that option. And I'm willing to carry on, it's... I only live 20 minutes up the road. I've nothing else to do in my old age. It keeps me off the streets.
Yeah, absolutely. And why not? And life in Australia, because you know, as I said, you were born in Hampshire. You joined the Navy as well.
Merchant Navy.
Yeah,
Merchant Navy. Yes, I set off to see the world when I was 16. Yeah.
And you ended up in Australia.
Yes.
Do you often wonder what would have happened to you if you hadn't taken that sort of route?
Well, a scary thing, in as much as that I appreciate it's a job that needs to be done, but I didn't want to go the way some of my schoolmates went, and that was to have an apprenticeship in Portsmouth or Southampton Dockyard. And I used to, even at that age, hate English winters, because I grew up during the war with a thick smog as well as the cold, and you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. And I was working one day, I ran into a friend of mine who had a suntan, and I said, "Where did you get that suntan?" And he said, "Oh, I'm in the Merchant Navy." And I said, "Where do I sign?" And a month later, I was in sea school at Gravesend, and 2 months after that, I was at sea on my first ship, setting off to see the world. And I'd always had a burning passion to go to the South Sea Islands in the Pacific. And after a voyage around the Mediterranean, then 4 down to South Africa, I signed on a ship that did go around the world and did go through the South Seas. And I actually sailed into Tahiti Harbour at the age of 17, and I was in seventh heaven.
And when you're not working, is travelling your big passion?
It is, yes. I get 2 2-week breaks written into my contract. That's apart from the 4 weeks at Christmas when the studio is off air totally. Yeah. It breaks the year up for me, keeps the scriptwriters on their toes.
Absolutely.
And I just set off to travel. I just love it. The older I get, the worse I get, actually. It's a disease with me.
Tom Oliver. Former stars of Neighbours, including Kylie Minogue, Jason Donovan, Guy Pearce and Margot Robbie, yep, I didn't know she was in it, returned to say goodbye in the final episode. And Neighbours also launched the careers of Hollywood stars such as Liam Hemsworth, Russell Crowe, yep, as well as singers Natalie Imbruglia, Delta Goodrem and Holly Valance. Great programme. It will be sorely missed by millions of people. Now next week, some more musical stars for you, including Jose Feliciano, who sang a song which always brings back great memories for me because I lived in Spain for 6 years and every Christmas we'd always hear his hit Feliz Navidad for weeks on the radio. And also Ralph McTell, who has been an influential figure on the UK folk scene since the 1960s and whose long-standing friend and one of my heroes is Billy Connolly.
In my life, I've been fortunate to meet some wonderful people, but very few geniuses, or genii, whatever the word is, but Billy's one. He's a genius. He's not just a wonderful comedian, he's taken to the level of art form, I think, as well as not losing the common touch, but he's got an insight and perceptions of things which delight and amaze and amuse him, and that's what he's able to communicate to us and make us look at things in a different way. So I'm a huge fan as well as being a mate, you know.
Yeah. That's Jose Feliciano and Ralph McTell next week on Tales from a Very Minor Celebrity.